Hey, if you don't mind, sometime Amy and I have been talking, and she may give you a call and hang out with you sometime. Is that cool?
Yeah, let's do it.
You're invited to the beach. All right. See you home at 1:30 and 2-ish.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is called the double standard. When you comes home at 8, you can call it 1:30.
Let me tell you honestly too, there is a huge double standard. And that's not unfair, that's reality. There is with mine, even right now at the age of my kids being younger. I will let
How old are your kids?
my kids are 11, 10, and 8. 7-ish. It's the boy, I don't care about that one. I don't know his name. I call him Bear. When you have a daughter as a dad, let me see how to do this, not graphically. When you have a daughter as a dad, you have to worry about every guy that will ever be in proximity of your daughter. When you have a son as a dad, you only worry about that boy. I don't worry about who's around him. I don't worry about what they're doing to him. I know in this day and age, there's still an incredible amount of tragedies and horror that can happen regardless of the sex that you are. But when you have a daughter, you are worried about every dude that is around her. 24/7, for any reason at all. Every place she goes, who she's with, whether it's a date or non-date, what friends, what house she's at. Even now, when my girls go, I always ask about, do they have a dad? Do they have an older brother? Tell me about them. I want to meet these dudes, even before there's a play date that goes on. I am just, part of my job for 23 years has been working with families in crisis situations, and I do that every week of my life for 23 years. In a church this size, there's constantly a crisis going on in someone's family. I'm one of the guys that always gets pulled into that. And so I've seen the absolute best of families from the outside, and some of you are living like that once you get inside, you realize that we're all flawed and broken, and sometimes in the most severe way. And so there is a huge double standard, and I'm not apologizing for that. It's the reality. You just have to understand why. There's something different even now about having my boy. He's just a dude. If this is my son, Christian and I have had to talk. I'm worried about that dude. I'm worried about him keeping his pants on. That's it. When I have a daughter, I worry about every other pair of pants that's in her life, constantly. And that is the double standard.
So many pants.
So many pants. And that is exactly, and so honestly, the day that my son brings home a girl who just happens to have sight and is somewhat normal, I'm giving him a high five. Oh, cow, seriously?
You too?
Seriously? That's amazing. And what's going on that night is between hopefully he and I, and hopefully I've done my job as a man. Masculinity bestows masculinity. Hopefully he's got that already by this point, and I'm good with what they're doing and where they're going. My daughter, I have no idea how that boy was raised. I have no idea in the 5-minute conversation how slick he was, what he tried to put on. We got a pretty good BS meter. We can do the player thing. But once he gets in that car and once they go, I have zero control over my girl. And that scares me to death. My boy, I'm not worried about controlling him when he's out of the house. And by control, I mean that ultimate fatherly protection. And so that is, it's a double standard. It's huge. It's just the reality you live in. Hopefully you understand that. If you didn't, hopefully I explained it a little more through a dad's eyes, like, wow, you never saw it. Girls, you scare your dad to death, whether he's in the house or not. I promise you, you scare him to death. He has no idea what to do with a teenage girl. He does his best. Some of your dads do a lot better than others. Most of them are just scared to death. It's why they're awkward with you. It's why you don't have a lot of conversation. It's why there's not a lot of intimate moments shared between dad and daughter. A lot of your dads cannot be intimate in conversation anyway. That's really never been a part of that. It's been hard for them, and with you, they're paranoid. The last time they wrestled with you or tickled you, you're about 8 years old, 9 years old. Your body started changing. They didn't know what to do with you, and now they sit back. They love you to death, but they're scared. And that may not be all of your dads, but I guarantee you it's a bunch of them, because I hang out with men like crazy around here, and the conversation always comes down to those of us with daughters, like, dude, what the frick is going on? And they're clueless. So. What if you're really close with your dad? You have deep, and that's amazing. That's a blessing. Keep that up. That's going to be largely on your response. It means your dad's willing, and you've done a great job to let him in. And so let him know as much about who you're with and who they are. But I tell you, even more so then, I bet your dad's really protective of you then. Yeah. Yeah. Strong guy in the back of the room. Okay, not so strong.
Chris, how do you, and your wife, of course, Browns in general, how do you deal as a young man when you're walking into the home and you kind of you get a sense that the relationship between the kids and the parents may be strained, or she's not necessarily doesn't seem eager to introduce you to the parents? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, or the dad just doesn't really care.
Yeah.
I mean, you come in and out, there's not really an introduction. He's like in the room, and walk out of the room, and you're like, well, I guess that was meeting dad. You got to do the best with what's presented in front of you. That's it. You cannot fix a family. You can't make more of it than what's there. You try your best to be as cordial as you can. You try your best to be as formal and respectful as you can. And again, you can do, the best thing you do is be you, but be the best you that you can be. And you can only take the situation that's given you and do something with it. And if it's awkward, sometimes it's going to be awkward as snot. Or you might walk into a home that just had a huge fight. They didn't know she was going on a date until just now. And everything's blown up. And you, unfortunately, are the victim that just walked into that, and the dust hasn't even settled. It may not have anything to do with you. It may be a situation between mom and dad, or stepdad and mom, and what's going on in their home. And sparks have flown. They look for any reason to have World War III. The date just set it off. And unfortunately, you're going to be in an awkward situation. Try to make the best of that. When you walk out, I would immediately look at the girl you're with and go, dude, was that me, or was that just the most awkward setting ever? And hopefully they'll let you know, well, let me tell you what's going on. And you're like, okay, at least put you at ease so the rest of the night you got a sense of what's happening. Unless Mr. Shivs.
No, I totally agree. But I think I would tack on one thing to that is that if they have a strained relationship either with their parents, or it's combative or anything else like that, I think you even harder a little more responsibility, because she may not be getting affirmed consistently. And with that, I think your responsibility on that date is to show her true masculinity, because she may not be having that shown in any aspect of her life, especially if she's not close to their dad. She may not see that in anything. So it's not, you got to look beyond the next 20 minutes or hour on your date and the next guy that's going to be taking her out or anything else like that. That you need to set that bar high with the way that you treat her, the way that you talk to her, the way that you respect her, the way that you talk about her and everything else, especially if she has that straight relationship with her father, because you may be the only representation of masculinity in her life at that moment, and you want to make sure that she doesn't come up next to some creep and doesn't know what manhood looks like, and that totally takes advantage of her. And I know that that's like deeper. We kind of talked about the other week, we talked about man CHIVS, but I think that's important too, is that you understand the role not just that you have on that date, but to embody masculinity in that in order to have her future relationship succeed as well. Does that make sense? You need to teach her what a man is by modeling it for her, especially if she doesn't have someone to model that. So your responsibility is bigger. Is that fair? I don't care. David Minnie.
What is your at the house and arguments?
Oh no!
Do you see like the unfairness of like the parents are teaming up on her, or like vice versa? She's like teaming on the parents. Like, how do you what side? Like the side, or you just stay?
No, stay out of it.
Zip it.
Fade into that.
Yeah. It's an unfortunate situation. It's not your situation. And in your incredible amount of wisdom that you've gathered at the age of 17, 18.
I think I got this one, guys.
Yeah.
I've seen Farm Says Mar in the last one.
You're not going to step into that situation. And more likely, if you try to say something and even trying to chivalry defend somebody in that situation, you are going to be the transference of so much anger that the family has rules on how they fight. Whatever you witnessed, if they're fighting in front of a stranger, it ain't the first fight. And the family, every family has rules. They may be incredibly unfair, but every family knows who's going to scream, who's going to yell, who's going to say what, who's going to hit, who's going to run, who's going to cry. I mean, every family knows it. And you step into that, you've just crossed family lines. And transference, by what I mean is they'll take the emotions of that situation and put it on you. And you don't want to go. That's why, so many in protective services and our law enforcement, they go into a situation, it's when so much anger and hatred comes at them. Even if it's domestic violence, and they're trying to break up a woman from getting beaten, more often than not, the woman will start beating on the officer, because that transference. They've stepped into how fights are usually played. How that anger, hatred, emotion will go to someone who's not allowed in that war, and that's the outsider. So it's a situation you probably won't be in, but if you find your situation in that for any reason, now, if you find yourself in a situation where an innocent person is being victimized, then you lay yourself out for it. Physically, emotionally, sexually, someone is being victimized, and beyond where you realize, wow, there's abuse happening here, then step in and do something. But that's much more than a common family fight argument.
And the second thing was
That's part two. So if I do choke the guy out.
Oh yeah, you did it last one.
Same look we got.
But then, like, where you actually start dating, that's when you start dating, how does that
That's cool. But introduce, Christian would come and say, hey, Mr. Brown, I was here 3 weeks ago when a bunch of us were over here watching movie night and all that. And I'm like, all right. Now, I might not have remembered. When did that happen? It's because I'm a prophet. And so, one of the things, I might not have remembered who was there that night, but I'm glad he reminded me because I'm like, oh, that was a cool group of kids. Now, if you happen to break my sliding door that night and the dishwasher hasn't worked since because someone put a tennis shoe inside, don't tell me you were part of that night. It's like, hey, first time I've been to your house, looks nice. I mean, don't lie.
Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we have to do. We have to move on with the rest of the date with the last 15 minutes that we have. If you have questions that are pertaining to this, you can come up and talk afterwards. With these guys, though, can we give them a round of applause for this? None of you are young enough to ever date Selah or Karis or anything else like that, but you know now what that looks like when a dad has daughters and that good relationship. So, awesome. Thank you guys again for doing that. All right, so here's what you're gonna do. I need a hostess. Hostess. Give me a hostess with the mostess. Boom, Josie, get up here. All right, so he has picked up the daughter from the date now. He has made a reservation, okay? This is key. Here's another trick. You make a reservation that you don't have to wait. For a guy, a date almost always begins when you're at your destination, okay? So the guy, you guys might know this, when you're in transit somewhere, your mind's never really there. You're kind of like, you're in the waiting room, you're like, okay, we're still waiting, we're not there yet. When you sit down at the table, you're like, and it begins, okay? So you can have a reservation ready. You can have a reservation ready at more than one place, too. You pick her up, you're like, where do you want to go? She'll be like, Macaroni Grill. You're like, I've got a reservation there. Because I'm awesome, okay? Now, this is the hostess stand. This is the table. Here's your objective, should you choose to accept it. You need to get there, call for the reservation, go sit down at your table. It's called calling for the reservation. You talk to her directly. No need to call. We saw that one. You ready to go? Okay, this is going to be the door. You guys please take a step back. I will be the door. I will be the door. And go ahead, go in the restroom. Doors always open which way? Always open.
That works. That's false.
You actually know this? And that's the next level. Let's go. Push it in. Good. Perfect. Get her, David. 2 minutes later. First of all, nail the entrance button. Nail it. Okay, so first of all, you're opening the door for her. Okay, she walks in. You are going to lead to the hostess stand. Okay? She should be waiting inside the door. You're going to lead why? Because you made the reservations. If Emma gets there, she's going to go, hi. Great sweater. Okay? So Christian takes a position of dominance as he goes forward. He goes, I have a reservation for Christian. And she goes, right this way. Okay. Now what I'm doing as Christian is you're going to put your hand on her back. And it's not pushing her or anything else like that, but it's showing her, it's leading her while you're following. Okay? So come here. Christian, you're going to be my girl. Actually, you can sit down. Paige, can you come here? Oh, this is my fiance, Paige. She's wonderful. She's taken. Can you guys stand up real quick? I'm going to show you. Okay, so she was like a gazelle to the chair. I'm not going to blame you. I saw you try that one. Okay, guys, listen. This is key. Watch. When you're seating someone, it is really, really awful if they finish sitting and you haven't pushed their chair in yet. Because you either look really weak or she looks really fat. Okay, so here's the key. When you're sitting, look, I'm controlling where she's going, even though I'm behind her. Watch. Okay, we go. She's giving us our reservation. I go, okay, move this horse to stand. I'm going to give it to her right here. Right, she's standing. Listen, don't sit there. Don't position. You're causing people to stumble. All right. You are going to put your knee, gentlemen, you put your knee in the middle of the chair, but you put your hands on top of the chair. So to everyone around, including her, it looks like I'm using total arms right here to push this. But I'm not. I'm using my knee. Okay? Ready for this? Paige, please have a seat. And she's in. But she's like, oh, he's so strong. Push. And I can push her as much as I want with my knee. So I'm like, but I look how casual I look. Oh, there she goes. It's my knee. Can you stand up for me? Okay. So, all the way from the beginning, I've opened the door. She's waiting inside the door. Okay? I let her know I'm walking in front of her. Hi. Want to for Christopher Ray Hilton, please. Christian works. Yeah, we'll take his reservation. Okay? She goes right this way. The hostess leads. I follow. And then I pick which chair she sits in. Watch. No. Please. Okay? Knees all the way in. And I can keep pushing if I feel like it. Okay? If she gets done sitting, you look so stupid when that happens. I've seen guys do, can you go ahead and can you try that again? Okay, so go ahead and sit. She'll have the Diet Coke. And see, that has nothing to do with her side. It has to do with something called inertia. It's the tendency of objects to resist motion. Okay? That's what the chair does. That's why, as she's sitting, you push, use your knee. Guys, this is golden so you don't look like a moron. Okay? You're sitting down. You're sitting down. You guys are in love. Come on, Emma. Okay. No, not crook. Okay. You're sitting here. I'm going to be your waiter. Okay? Bonjour. Oh wait, it's Italian, isn't it? Buona festa. What? What can I? Mario. What can I get you guys to eat tonight? Alfredo pasta? Alfredo pasta? What kind of pasta? Fettuccine? Alfredo's the sauce. So I don't really... I worked at the Olive Garden for 4 years, the OG. Fettuccine Alfredo? For you, sir? You're gonna have spaghetti. Okay. Here's a problem with ordering spaghetti on your first date. We call this home field advantage. It doesn't matter. As a guy, you want to have what we call home field advantage. This is called places you know, foods you know how to eat. All of these things are going to play into your hand, okay? So let's order, what? Then order spaghetti twice, okay? You're going to pick up some of the noodles, you're going to use your spoon, push it in, twirl, my man. Okay. Listen, here's what you need to know. When you're eating dinner, whenever you take a bite, you should be able to respond to a question within 5 seconds with the size bite you take. Some of you guys are like the Incredible Hulk when you eat. It's like, are you racing against Zeus? It's like, here's my steak. It's like all over your face. Okay? Now, you're at a nice restaurant, okay? So you have crab galore. You've got like 4 different plates. You've got glasses, you've got a bread plate, you've got silverware and everything else like that. You need help. This is all you need to know. This is it. Left and right. Can you all tell your left and your right? How many letters does fork have in it? How many letters does left have in it? Guess where your fork goes. How many letters does knife have in it? How many letters does spoon have in it? Guess which side your spoon and knife go on. Boom. And everyone go like this. Everyone go like this. You're eating a fine dinner and you see all these bread plates, all these water glasses, goblets, you don't know what they are. Look. Your drink is on your right side. Your bread plate is on your left side. This is a B, this is a D. Bread plate. This is cheating. Yes! Okay. So that's what you know. Because sometimes you'll sit down and you'll start taking someone else's bread and they're like, hey, it's my bread. Okay? Your goblet's on your right. It goes water, red wine, white wine. You're like, how are we supposed to know that? If it has like the longer stem, it's going to be for your white wine. Does anyone know why? I know you're not 21, but you're not going to have another CHIVS workshop before you're 21. Because Austin Adams.
You're bringing up your nose as well.
No, you do that with red too. White wine is supposed to be cold, and your hand is hot. So you're not supposed to touch your white wine with your hand. Henceforth, the stem that gives you more control. Red wine, you're going to use the cup of it, so you can get a good nose on it. Okay? And then with everything, with forks, you've got your salad fork, dinner fork, dessert fork. You always work from the outside in. First course, salad. After you're done with it, you don't set it on the tablecloth, you set it on your plate. When you're done, Zoe, can you take one step to the left and or right? So I can use this board real quick. This is called finished position. You put your fork right there. You put your spoon right there. That tells your waiter, I'm done. It's called the 420 position, and they call it that before people smoked weed all the time. It's called the 420 position. It tells your waiter that you're finished with this course, okay? It never goes back on it. When you go to sit down, if there's a napkin on your table, a cloth napkin, that is not what you use to wipe face, blow nose, all that other stuff. That napkin goes from table to lap, and it does not make a reappearance until the host of the dinner makes his reappear. That's the signal for the end of the meal. When he picks it up off his lap and puts it on the table, your meal's done. Okay? And not before then. You're like, well, what if I have to go to the bathroom? You fold it and you set it next to your plate. Okay? If you're not done, you don't put your silverware in 420 position because I'll take it away. So you put your fork right here and your knife up here, all on the plate. That says, I'm still eating. This says I'm done. This says I'm still eating. Listen, this is a fine dining restaurant. You're like, well, I go to the Outback, and it's not the same thing. Not the same thing. McDonald's only has one plate, bro. Okay? And then your water cup is over here, And your bread plate is right here. Everything you eat with utensils. You're gonna go Buddha. Everything you eat except for one thing is eaten with utensils. What is not eaten with utensils? Bread. Someone's gonna raise their hand and go, but what about bread? What about fries? Use a fork. What about this? You use utensils. This is proper etiquette. You're going, well, that's ridiculous. I'm not talking about what is or isn't ridiculous. You want to watch what's ridiculous? This is how you're supposed to eat food politely. You take your fork in your left hand. You take your steak knife in your right hand. You place the fork in the steak. You cut the small piece off of the big piece. Does that make sense to you guys? You stick your fork in the piece that you're not going to put up to your mouth. You put it in the piece that's staying on the plate. You cut off a small enough bite so that you can answer a question within 5 seconds. You then take the fork out of the steak and you set it down on your plate. You set your knife down on your plate. You use your right hand to pick up said fork into your right hand. You pick it up, the steak, with your fork. You put it in your mouth. You set it back down on the plate. That's not the question. The question is not time. Because any of you can eat with your hands faster than a fork. That's not the question. The question is proper etiquette. That's what we're teaching. Okay? Here's what we're going to do. Next week, we have about 10 minutes left of the tips and tricks for dating, including more stuff about left, right, knowing how to do everything. And we're going to lay those out for you very succinctly next week. After those 10 minutes, we're clearing out this room of all chairs, and you are going to learn how to slow waltz, fast waltz, foxtrot, and swing dance. All of it is so that on April 12th, from 7:30 to 11 p.m., we will have a dinner that is going to be catered in. We'll be having drinks. We'll be having a DJ. We will be having dancing. You need to be here next Monday. Tickets for this are in the back now. They will sell out. Get them as soon as possible. A lot of people have already been asking their female counterparts. Some females ask, can I go alone? Absolutely. We will have guys there that you can dance with that will help you do all this stuff. We're going to work with it. We understand there's more girls than guys. Come and experience it. It's going to be rad. Get your tickets. Next Monday we're finishing this up, and then ballroom dancing. April 12th is the ball. We'll see you guys there.
He's leaving. I thought he was asking.